let's just start this. Let's start the placements. When I did the tier list with the units, I didn't really expand too much on my judgments oftentimes, but here I guess we can go into more of a discussion. Well, a monologue, I guess, about this. So, why not start in alphabetical order? Alchemist. Where do we put the Alchemist? So it's of course relevant. Two things. How good is he in the best scenario? And how good is he on average, right? So, where he's the best is if he reaches level 6, because his level 6 is crazy good. It's honestly broken, his level 6. But he gets there only very rarely, because he gets played only very rarely. For the most part, we only see him in Night Elf versus Orc, and there, his Acid Bomb is good early on tier 2. Not so amazing in my opinion later on to the game. Later then is where the Heal Spray is really good. So, alright, this is definitely where the Alchemist is a staple, but other than that, where can he really be played? Sometimes humans play them if they really need some healing, but that comes at a great price because normally the human second hero is responsible for the damage, and the Acid Bomb doesn't work well with human because you need a lot of right click, but normally you have casters, breakers, all that stuff that doesn't do much damage. So that all goes to say that the Alchemist doesn't really get played much outside of Night Elf versus Orc. There's always some fringe cases, even undeads sometimes play him against Warden. In general, against Warden, he's played quite a bit. But yeah, not played that much. Also, Chemical Rage, not really a good spell. Nowadays, Night Elves, they don't play much Mass Air anymore, but even if they do play Mass Air, Alchemist is way worse than a Demon Hunter second for Night Elf. So, this all is to say, he has his uses where he's good, but he's almost never amazing, and you can't play him that much. So where does that land him? He's definitely not S, he's definitely not A. I would say... Let's put him C for now. I'm going to try to recontextualize this once I have more heroes thrown into the mix here. I'm not quite certain about it yet. Archmage. This is an interesting one. Because the Archmage is always playable, and he's always good, but he's rarely, like, amazing. You know? He's rarely like a Lich with landing 3 Novas that wins a fight, or a Blademaster with a couple of crits. Like, the impact ceiling for the Archmage isn't that high. He can't be too amazing usually, unless you're in a specific Blizzard situation. But Blizzard isn't used that much, really. But also, his impact floor is really high. Like, no matter the game, he's always going to be pretty damn good. So he's S or A, I would say. When I did the units tier list, I thought about it previously a bit more, so I came into it with more of an understanding of where I want to place the units. Here, this is all fresh off the cuff. So Archmage is certainly very, very good. In the early game, he is amazing. His aura is always good. The thing is about the Archmage also, he only has really good spells. As one of the few heroes in the game, every single one of his spells is really good. I'm gonna put him at S. All right. Beastmaster. One of my favorite heroes. I really like this hero. Also partly influenced by the Rexxar campaign, which I absolutely loved and played like a million times. But he's not very good. There's very few scenarios where he's playable. He usually falls off super hard, as so many summon heroes do, but he doesn't have an aura or some kind of AoE ability to pair with his weaker summons in the late game, like an Archmage or like a Crypt Lord, for example. He can be very good in some scenarios if you're playing a high tempo game, which mainly means as Night Elf, It mainly means last refuge. So he's honestly, like, on the top level, he's playable in one matchup on one map. There he's really good. And you can kind of make him work in other scenarios as well, but he's never really good in other ones. So he's also on the lower end. I'm going to put him D for now. The thing is, he can be so good on Last Refuge that he's... I almost want to put him in C, but there's just so few scenarios where you can play him that I'm like, let's put him here for now. Blademaster. I feel like the Blademaster in many regards is the exact opposite of an Archmage. Like, in terms of what his impact can be. Blademaster can be absolutely amazing if you get to level 5, if you have good control. Before that, if you're scouting well in the mid-game, if you have good movement, good creep patterns. If everything goes well, the Blademaster can be absolutely sick, especially against Undead, because there you have Orb of Lightning and triple hero support. And high level, oftentimes. Blademaster will oftentimes win you the game in the late game against Undead, along with the TC. But if the game goes bad, if you don't find your opponent early, if you can't stop him from creeping, especially if playing against Night Elf, the Blademaster is on level 2 only, he doesn't have many items, he just gets controlled, and he doesn't do much. So, I guess we have to condense his strength into an average. He can be absolutely amazing, but he can also be underwhelming. So he's either A or B, in my estimation. But for his potential, especially against Undead, especially in the triple hero scenario, I'm going to put him at A. And also, if you play him really well, against Night Elf especially, he's going to be extremely powerful in the early game. And that's very hard to do. Only Lin and Fly can do it super well. And Hitman as well. And Focus maybe. But very hard to do. Very hard to play hero in most matchups. Blood Mage. One of my favorite heroes in the game. Super cool. Very well designed. But where does he land on the power level? Siphon mana is crazy strong. Siphon mana level 2 is pretty overpowered. But it's hard to find the right spot for him. You can't really play him as a first hero, because you can get overrun too easily. Once you run out of mana and can't siphon anymore, he doesn't have summons, he doesn't have direct damage, he doesn't have heal. He has Flame Strike, yeah, but that's very unreliable in the early game, especially. The later the game goes, especially against bears, we see that all the time. He can be really good. His ultimate is amazing. Banish is an okay spell. He doesn't have 3 amazing spells. In fact, he only has 1 amazing spell, that's Siphon. Plus the ultimate. The ultimate's also amazing. So where does that land him? I think B is a good place for him, right? He's not as universally good to play, and he has some clear weaknesses. I think B is a good place to put him. TC? You can't play him as a first hero. And he does have some weaknesses. But what he brings in the right scenario, and there's many matchups you can play him, is absolutely amazing. Endurance Aura, one of the best auras in the game. Maybe the best aura. And Stomp is absolutely nuts. The best disable in the game. TC is S tier. I'm going to have to think about a bit more who's better. TC or Archmage. Not sure about that yet. Crypt Lord. Used to be very overpowered. Nowadays, nerfed a lot. It's a very hard hero to balance. Like, it's really easy to make him a bit too strong and to make him just completely snowbally and unstoppable in the early game. And then for that reason being totally overpowered and leading to really frustrating games. But if you make him a bit too weak, then he becomes useless, and at the moment he seems to be rather on the weaker side. He is still playable with a fast expansion, but that's hardly ever really strong anymore. It's the best, I guess, in Undead Mirror, the fast expo. Humans have gotten way better at dealing with Crypt Lord, especially if there's merc camps. I think if there's a merc camp on the map, Crypt Lord is unplayable. But there's some scenarios where he's good. So he's definitely C or D. There's some maps where the Crypt Lord can still be really good in the right position, like Echo Isles, like Tide Hunters. I think those are the primary ones. Alright, gonna have to decide here. C or D. Where does he belong? I think for his potential, I have to put him in C. Nowadays, oftentimes the Crypt Lord doesn't look so impressive anymore, but if you get the expo up at the right time, if your leveling is on point, if your scouting is good, if you use your beetles well and you harass well, and if you line up your impales nicely in the late game, can be a good hero. I think C is proper. Dark Ranger. I think she's very difficult to place, because there's a lot of things going on for her at the same time. So firstly, she can be played almost anywhere if you're undead as a third hero, but only as a third hero, where oftentimes her impact isn't too high. Well, to be fair, she can also be played as a second hero against Orc. She is really bad, I think, for all the other races, right? Human can't play her. Night Elf can almost never play her. There's a few exceptions. And Orc can definitely never play her. So she's got a few windows, a few scenarios where she's really good, especially as undead second or third hero. So she's also C or D. It's mainly against Orc. It's mainly Black Arrow level 2 against Headhunters, which is the really strong thing. Plus, of course, in Undead Mirror. I'll put her in C, though. She's just always very reliable. She is... she's hardly super strong, but she always does what she's supposed to and fulfills a useful role. DK. Oh yeah, S tier. One of the best auras in the game. A very good heal. And enables the entire undead kiting army to function. DK is probably the best support hero in the game. He's not a damage carry, he's not super flashy, but the aura and the healing that he provides, plus the early game harass potential with coil and skeletons, very, very good. Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter has fallen from grace quite a bit over the years. Nowadays, he's really bad against human as first hero. For the most part. On AZ, maybe you can make him work, but not really in other scenarios. You can play him as a second hero against human, but seems like nowadays they don't like that too much anymore either. He just gets countered really hard by slow especially, and in general by things that control him. Frost armor also against him can be really good. However, as a second hero against undead, it can still be decent, but he pretty much only provides mana burn. For the most part. Mana burn and a couple of right clicks. In Night Elf Mirror, however, he is still super strong. In Night Elf Mirror, he is the solid choice, but there he also sometimes gets overshadowed by Podem and Mass. And against Orc, you can't really play him unless you're playing some weird Bear, Dryad, or Talon style, but that's far from the meta right now. So, not universally usable, Mr. Demon Hunter. So, I think that puts him out of SNA for the most part. And yeah, I think he belongs in B. I think he belongs in B. In the right scenario, very good, but also has severe weaknesses that can be exploited a lot. Dreadlord. Well, I think we know where this boy's going. Cool hero, but not very strong. It seems like the only place where the Dreadlord is really good is if as a third hero, either in Gargs versus Hippos for the aura, or if you're playing Gargs and Ghouls in Undead Mirror. But even there, he's not that good. He's got some fringe cases where he can be used, but for the most part, nope. Very bad. Sorry for Side if he's in chat, but I think this is pretty clear. Yeah. I would love to see some buffs to the Dreadlord as well. He's got one of the coolest ults in the game. But yeah. He's, by the way, also one of those badly designed heroes. Just giving a hero like a sleep to lock targets in place against which you can do nothing, especially in the early game. And just a cone, AoE, and an aura that gives lifesteal. I'm pretty sure that Dreadlord was one of the first heroes that Blizzard designed, and they didn't really have an idea of how to make a good hero yet. Unlike the Blood Mage, which I think is the best example of a very well-designed hero in the game. Alright, let's move on. Oh wow, I'm taking some time to do this. Farseer. Farseer is a very polarizing hero. Very bad in the late game. Oftentimes close to useless in the late game. But he's so good in the early game. He's basically like the Keeper. With the exception that he can't really carry an orb. Well, technically he can, but doesn't have the same impact as the orb on the Keeper. So, yeah. I think A is where he belongs. Serious weaknesses in the late game, but amazing in the early game. A tier. Firelord. Well, that's another trash hero. It's either D or E. Firelord has... you remember the Archmage? How I said the Archmage has 4 amazing spells? The Firelord has 4 shitty spells. Lava Spawn can be kind of okay in the early game, but honestly, not that good. Soulburn is bad, Incinerate is bad, Volcano is bad. The only thing that's redeeming on the Firelord is that his right click is really good. He's one of the best right clickers in the game. He scales amazingly with Agi. He's a great ranged right click DPS hero, but his spells are so bad that I also have to put him in E. Firelord is very, very bad. And, well, the Keeper, I mean, it's basically the same point as before. It's like the Farseer. Very weak in the late game, falls off incredibly, but absolutely amazing in the early game. He's probably the best early game hero. Farseer is also very good on level 1 and 2, but Keeper is probably the best. But he has some clear weaknesses. Unlike the top boys up here, I would say. So yeah, A tier also for the Keeper. All right, let's select this a bit better. I think Keeper is the best here in the A tier, and then Farseer probably, and then Blademaster. All right, Lich. Very good, obviously. You can always play a Lich. It's always going to be a good hero. It's the best orb carrier for Undead. He is crazy strong in the late game. Scales insanely well with levels. Frost Armor and Dark Ritual and Nova all become super strong with high levels. His ultimate is kind of whatever. It has some use in the right scenario. But it does take some time to come online. He's definitely S or A. Not sure where to put him. Does he have clear weaknesses? With a lot of heroes, we say on level 1 and 2, they're kind of weak. Like with the TC, like with the Mountain King. The Lich is still pretty good on level 1 and 2. He's not amazing. But I mean, no hero is super amazing on level 1 and 2. So I think Lich is also S tier. Mountain King. King of the late game. Clap and Stormbolt. Very strong. Bash also in the right scenario. Extremely good. The ultimate is whatever, but that's not so relevant. But he does certainly have the weakness of being unimpressive on level 1 and 2. So I think that's going to put him in A tier. Where exactly are we going to put him? Nowadays in the meta, where everything is so fast in the mid game, his slow appearance from the altar sometimes hurts him. So I would put him between the Farseer and the Blade. All right, let's by the way rank these heroes properly on the S tier. I think the TC is actually the best hero in the game. Yep, TC number 1. DK, Archmage, that's a toss-up. Who's better? I'd say Archmage, maybe. The DK doesn't have many weaknesses. DK only has a weakness in Undead Mirror against the Crypt Lord. This is a toss-up, pretty much. I'm not sure. Yeah. Lich is in 4th, I would say, in the S tier. But anyways, let's keep going. Paladin. Strong hero in theory. He's got a good heal. Low cooldown. Only 65 mana. He's got a great aura. And Divine Shield also is very useful. And the ultimate can be really good. But you can't play him as a first hero. Because it's just too slow and you don't have enough summons and impactful spells. You can't really play him as a second hero. Because human really needs some offensive potential with a second hero. So you can only really play him as third hero, or if you play Pally Rifles. But Pally Rifles isn't really that good. So I think I would put him C tier. Or B tier. C or B, guys? He's a good hero, but I think with the exception of Pally Rifles, like his impact ceiling is also not that high, I would say. I would say he's better than the C tier heroes, though. And I think I think this organization here is fine. Blood Mage, Demon Hunter, Paladin. I think that's alright. But this Alchemist is too far up front. I think it should be Dark Ranger in first, Alchemist, Crypt Lord. Yeah, more or less. More or less. And Dreadlord is last. Sorry, boys. Panda! Very good hero. Has the weakness that he's also on level 1 and 2 not too strong, but with the newly improved stats that he received, he's actually not that bad on level 1 anymore. His AoE is amazing. His tankiness is really good. I feel like this is talked about way too little. How nice it is to have a tanky frontline hero that can also throw out damage. And Drunken Haze Mischance is good. The passive is really nothing special. But the ultimate is amazing. And with dual hero Panda, you oftentimes do get to the ultimate. He is definitely S tier. Where do we put him in this little mixeroo that we have here? I'd say here is fine. The thing about the Panda is, if he runs out of mana, and you had enough heal scrolls to deal with him, then he does present a weakness, but it's a small weakness. Pit Lord. Not really playable in many situations. In the past, we used to see him with Shadowhunter Pit Lord strategy, but everyone kind of learned how to play against that. Just buy some heal scrolls and move your units properly, and abuse the fact that you can find pickoffs early and they can't. Good for Undead to push the human expansion, and also leveling beyond that to level 3 and 4 for the AoE. Can be good in the right situation, but those aren't too frequent, so that puts him at C tier as well. And I would say ahead of the Alchemist. Yeah. Paladin. The absolute antithesis, the opposite of a Firelord. Of a Blood Mage, excuse me. Of a Blood Mage. Extremely boring hero, but in the right situation will have her use. Mainly as a first hero, in Night of Mirror she's good, and also late game against Orc as a third hero. She's good. Everywhere else, she's not playable. So this immediately puts her down here. So she's C or D tier. The thing is, she's looking really, really strong in Night of Mirror for a while now. For some time, we only had Demon Hunter Bears for a couple months, but the Paladin is actually kind of dominating the matchup from players like Foggy and Moon at the moment. So it has to be C tier, I guess. And yeah, let's put her here. Naga. Naga is kind of the ultimate all-right hero. What she brings to the table is always decent, but never amazing. Basically, never amazing. If she gets to level 5 for level 3 Fork Lightning, it's okay, but it's still absolutely no comparison to level 3 Nova or level 3 Clap or anything like that. Her early game impact with Cold Arrow is really good, so yeah, she always delivers, but never anything amazing. So I think B tier is the right place for her. Ahead of the Paladin. Yeah. Shadowhunter. Now, if I was Happy, I would put Shadowhunter at the first place in S tier. Happy says it's the best hero in the game, which I don't really agree with. I think the Shadowhunter always needs to have the right supporting cast to do much. Now, of course, he's amazing against Night Elf especially, but I think we've been seeing some weakness from the Shadow, especially in the matchup against Undead, where Farseer plus Shadowhunter, if you play that combo, you just lack that oomph. You don't have the big stomp, you don't have the big damage. Yeah, you get some good healing, but I don't think he's that high impact. He's, of course, he is a very good hero, so he's definitely S or A. Hex does sometimes fall off against the right armies, especially Dryad-based armies. But it gives you great control on tier 2. It's a great healer, late game. The ultimate is complete trash, but that's once again not too relevant. I'm not sure. S tier. I think he is S tier though, right? He just doesn't have many weaknesses. He's super strong on level 1. His heat wave always scales amazing. And the Serpent Wards are, in the right situation, incredibly good. So I think he's S tier as well. I would put him a bit ahead of the Panda, I guess. Tinker. Pretty hard to place, in my opinion. Tinker was always one of the weird heroes in the game. Was always one of the strange creatures. Playable in quite a few different matchups. With the Pocket Factory and the Cluster Rockets, he has quite a few uses. Very well designed hero, by the way. Unlike the Paladin, for example. Really cool interaction between his passive and his spells, which all have this mechanical theme. Also, the ultimate is really cool where he turns into a machine himself when he always is about this gadgetry. Very, very well designed hero from a thematic angle. But where does he land in terms of power? I'd say it has to be B or C, right? We've been seeing him quite a bit in the late game recently in Night Elf versus Human. I'm not sure how good he is yet. The thing is, he never really sees much play outside of Night Elf. Humans sometimes pick him, but I'm not sure that's really so good. It's a difficult one. I can't make up my mind, guys. Where to put him? Where to put him? I'm struggling. It's a 50-50. It's a toss-up for me. Let's put him... Okay, he's definitely ahead of the Pit Lord, I would say. I'm not sure if he's better than the Dark Ranger. I'm not sure. I would say not really. So I'm going to put him here. All right. That took a little while. D tier? Nah, I think his potential is too high to be D tier. All right, and lastly, the Warden. Another very polarizing hero, similar to the Blademaster. She can absolutely take over a game and destroy everything, but she needs a very specific set of circumstances to succeed. First of all, the right matchup, of course. She is only playable against human. And don't tell me about against undead. Good undeads destroy a Warden. She is not good against undead. She's unplayable in Night of Mirror, more or less, and unplayable against Orc. So that's the thing about her. She can only be good against human, and also there she doesn't always work. She only works on the right map. We don't have Terran Stand anymore, so only place you can still play her is either Echo Isles or Amazonia. But there she can be crazy good. She can't be an absolute game winner. But she's too inconsistent to be A tier, I would say. So I'm going to put her at B. And this is what I mean, you know, it can be hard to rate these heroes. Yes, the Warden can be absolutely nuts, but it's so few cases. And also, she can always be punished, even on good maps, even in good matchups. She always has weaknesses that can be exploited. So yeah, I think I'm going to put her here. And that's it. Warden is okay versus Orc. Get the hell out of here. No, she's not. It's like saying Dreadlord is okay against Orc. Yeah, you can win some games on ladder, but not really. All right. That's it. Save image. Hells yeah. All right. Thank you all for taking part, I guess. Hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, we'll see. Maybe some more tier lists in the future.